Good day everyone, welcome again to another episode of tax training. And today I will discuss to you the allowable deductions from gross income for business persons under Section 7 of Republic Act 11534 or the CREATE Law. So under this CREATE Law, Section 34 of the tax code has been amended. So it was provided that the taxpayers earning purely compensation income arising from personal services rendered under an employer-employer relationship in computing taxable income subject to income tax under Section 24A, 25A, 26, 27A, 27B, 27C, and 28A, 1 of the National Internal Revenue Code of 1987 as amended, where the person subject to income tax opted to claim itemized deductions. So there shall be allowed the following deductions from gross income. So these allowable deductions are to be claimed by those persons who opted to claim itemized deductions. So for the expenses, so these are the allowable expenses or allowable deductions. So for the expenses, we can claim ordinary and necessary trade, business, or professional expenses. So ano ibig sabihin na ordinary? Hindi siya exceptional, doon sa nature ng business mo. Unnecessary, ibig sabihin kailangan siya doon sa business. So in general, this shall be allowed as deductions from gross income all the ordinary unnecessary expenses paid or incurred during the taxable year in carrying on or which are directly attributable to the development, management, operation, and or conduct of the trade, business, or exercise of a profession. So by ordinary, we mean, who will determine kung ordinary ba unnecessary yung expenses mo? During the tax audit, the examiner will determine kung ordinary and necessary ba. At kailan yung expenses mo maging ordinary and necessary? Depending on the nature of your business or industry. Halimbawa, transportation company ka, ano yung mga ordinary expenses mo? Fuel and oil, salary ng driver, repairs and maintenance. Kung halimbawa naman, ang business mo is restaurant, so ano yung mga ordinary and necessary expenses mo? Yung mga cost ng mga raw materials na binibili mo para sa pagkain mo, mga depreciation ng mga gamit mo, so those are ordinary and necessary expenses. So iba't ibang industry, iba't iba rin ang ordinary and necessary expenses. So what are the examples? Reasonable allowance for salaries, wages, and other forms of compensation for personal services rendered, including the gross up monetary value of friends' benefits furnished or granted by the employer of the employee, provided that the income tax imposed on such salaries and friends' benefits has been paid. So ano yung mga pwede nating i-claim as deductions? The salaries and wages. But ano sabi dito? Provided na yung mga dapat na tax, ibig sabihin yung withholding tax ng salaries at saka friends benefits ay dapat na bayaran. So ano yung mga tax dito sa salaries? These are the withholding tax on compensation. When i-withhold yan ng employer. How about the friends benefits? Friends benefits tax is benefits given by the employer to its managerial and supervisory employee, and that is subject to final tax, na dapat ang employer din ang magbabayad. Okay. Letter B, a reasonable allowance for travel expenses here and abroad while away from home in the pursuit of trade, business, or profession. So allowable din yung expenses na travel, here and abroad. Sabi, reasonable allowance for travel expenses. But of course, pag sinabi dito na travel expenses, it should be related to business. At pag sinabi natin na reasonable allowance, hindi siya excessive, hindi siya sobra-sobra na parang nag-shopping ka lang doon sa ibang bansa o kaya doon sa pag-travel mo, no? Sobra-sobra. Letter D, a reasonable allowance for entertainment. Ito yung mga entertainment. Halimbawa, may mga bisita tayo, no? Amusement and recreation expenses during the taxable year that are directly connected to the development, management, and operation of the trade, business, or profession of the taxpayer, or that are directly related to or in furtherance of the conduct of his or its trade, business, or exercise of a profession, not to exceed such sellings as is prescribed under RR 10-2002. Itong RR 10-2002, ito yung nagbigay ng selling or ng limit sa representation expense natin. And how much is that? 1% for the sale of services and 0.5% for the sale of goods. Saan siya ibibase? Sa sales, no? So 0.5% of sales for sale of goods and 1% of sales for the sale of services. Yan po ang sabi ng RR 10-2002. But provided that any expense incurred for entertainment and amusement or recreation that is contrary to law, morals, public policy, or public order shall in no case be allowed as deduction. Kaya kung ang ginawa nyo, nagsabong, nag-club, illegal, no? They are not necessary and ordinary expenses, hence they are not allowed as an expenses, no? So, yun po yung sinasabi dito. And then we have letter E, upon the effectivity of the create, an additional deduction from taxable income of 1/2 of the value of the labor training expenses incurred for skills development of enterprise-based trainees enrolled in public senior high schools, public higher education institutions, or public education institutions, or public technical and vocational institutions, and duly covered by an apprenticeship agreement under Presidential Decree number 442, series of 1974, or the Labor Code of the Philippines as amended, shall be granted to enterprises, no? So ano ito? Yung 1/2 of the value ng labor training expenses na incur sa mga apprenticeship, no, na program ng TESDA ng mga public school, senior high schools, no? So pwede kang dagdagan ng claim expenses mo 1/2, no, of the value of the labor. So that is already an incentive given to business, no, business owners. Provided further that for the additional deduction for enterprise-based training of students from public educational institutions, the enterprise shall secure proper certification from the Department of Education. Siyempre, no, kasi yung certification will prove na public educational institution talaga na enterprise ang nag-claim, no? So from the Department of Education, DepEd, Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, or the TESDA, or the Commission on Higher Education, or CHED, no? Provided finally that such deduction shall not exceed 10% of direct labor wage. So this is another requirement, no? So halimbawa comply ka na with the requirement ng TESDA siya, accredited, and then TESDA, no, and then DepEd. Pero ang next pa niya na limit is it should be 10% only of the direct labor, no? So these are the examples. MOC Corporation, a domestic manufacturing corporation, had gross sales of 100 million for fiscal year ending June 30, 2021, and incurred cost of sales of 60 million and operating expenses of 17,500,000 with the following details. Okay. Cost of sales, direct materials is 30 million. Direct labor, 20 million. Manufacturing overhead, 10 million. So, the total cost of sales is 60 million. The operating expenses, salary, 7 million. Taxes, 300,000. Depreciation, 3,500,000. Professional fees, 200,000. Advertising expenses, 3 million. Training expenses, 3 million. Office supplies, 500,000. So the total operating expenses is 17,500,000. So assuming MOC Corporation has complied with the withholding tax requirement on all costs and expenses incurred subject to withholding tax. So what is required here is to compute for the corporation's net taxable income. So how much is the corporation's net taxable income? So the gross income is 40 million. The allowable deductions are salaries and wages 7 million, taxes 300,000, depreciation 3,500,000, professional fees 200,000, advertising expenses 3 million, training expenses 3 million, office supplies 500,000. So how much is the total expenses? 17,500,000. No? So how much now is the net income? Net taxable income is 21 million. No? Okay. Explanation. The amount of 1,500,000, which is 1/2 of the value of the actual training. How much is the actual training? 3 million. No? So 1/2 of that is 1,500,000. Can be claimed as additional deduction since it does not exceed 10% of the direct labor wage. No? So in this scenario, the corporation direct labor wage incurred was 20 million. Thus, the 1/2 value of the actual training expenses of 1,500,000 did not exceed the 2 million or the 10% of 20 million threshold. So, pwede niyang i-claim yung 1,500,000. Provided further that all the prescribed requirements in the section ng Create Law has been complied with. No? Ano yung na-complied with? Yung apprenticeship agreement, certification from DepEd or TESDA or CHED, whichever is applicable. No? So if the company's direct labor wage is only 10 million, so 10 million times 10% is how much? 1 million. The additional deduction that can be allowed shall be 1 million and not 1,500,000. Kasi whichever is lower. No? Expenses allowable to private educational institution. So, yun yung next natin. No? So, we have the interest paid or incurred within a taxable year or indebtedness in connection with the taxpayer's profession, trade, or business shall be allowed as deductions from gross income provided the same also satisfy the following criteria. Ano naman yung requirements para sa interest expense na pwedeng i-claim? Number 1, the indebtedness must be that of the taxpayer. Dapat yung utang sa taxpayer, hindi yung utang ng iba. Number 2, the interest must have been stipulated in writing. No? So may contract. Number 3, the interest must be legally due. No? So due na. Number 4, the interest payment arrangement must not be between related taxpayers as mandated in Section 34, B2B in relation to Section 36B, both of the Tax Code of 1997. So, dapat daw yung nangutang at saka yung pinag-utahan, hindi sila related. Kasi pag related, as if walang interest expense. No? The interest expense must not be incurred to finance petroleum operations. So, hindi yan ginamit para sa petroleum operations. The interest was not treated as capital expenditures. No? If such interest was incurred in acquiring property used in trade, business, or exercise of profession. So, we follow the accounting standards. So, ano ba yung sabi ng accounting standards on the capital expenditures? Pag capital expenditure yan, hindi mo siya pwedeng expense. Why? Because it will benefit the future. No? So, kung saan yan ginamit yung pera, doon mo isama. No? Halimbawa, the interest expense, nangutang ka, bumili ka ng bagong building, then doon mo isama yung interest expense. You cannot claim it as an operating expense. So, provided further that the taxpayer's otherwise allowable deduction for interest expense shall be reduced by an amount equivalent to 20% of interest income subjected to final tax. However, if the final withholding tax rate on interest income of 20% will be adjusted in the future, the interest expense reduction rate shall be adjusted accordingly. No? Kasi meron tayong mga determination dito sa pagka 20% lang yung rate ng income. No? Okay. So in the case of the corporation, since the income tax rates changed effective July 1, 2020, it follows that the deduction from the interest expense of 20% shall be effective also on the said date. No? So for other domestic corporation with net taxable not exceeding 5 million, hindi umabot sa 5 million yung taxable income, and total assets not exceeding 100 million, excluding the land on which the particular business entity or office, plant, and equipment are situated, the deduction is 0%. No, 0%. Wala nang deduction. Since there is no difference in the amount in the income tax rate on the taxable income, 20%, with the tax rate applied on the interest income, subjected to final tax of 20%. However, in the case of the individual engaged in business or practice of profession, such deduction shall take effect upon the effectivity of create. So, kailan nag-effective yung create? July 1, 2020. Okay. So, another illustrations. For fiscal year ending June 30, 2021, assuming JHB Corporation, aside from the operating expenses of 17,500,000, incurred interest expense of 400,000. No? Naka-incur siya ng interest expense na 400,000, which satisfy the prescribed requirement for deductibility, but it also earned interest income of 100,000, net of the final tax of 20%. How shall the taxable income be computed? No? So, paano yung taxable income natin i-compute? So, we have the gross income of 40 million, less allowable deductions. We have salaries and wages of 7 million, taxes 300,000, depreciation 3,500,000, professional fees 200,000, advertising expenses 3 million, training expenses 3 million, and we have here the interest expense. No? How much is 400,000? So, office supplies, 500,000. So, we have expenses before additional deductions na 17,900,000. So, yan po, before we compute the additional deduction for training. No? So, additional deduction for training is 1,500,000. Less 20% of interest income earned. No? Net tax equals net taxable income. Okay. So, ano itong interest income na na-earn niya? 25,000. Okay. So, the total allowable deduction is 19,375,000. So, the net taxable income is 20,625,000. Okay. Okay, so those are the allowable deductions from gross income for business person. So take note, ano yung bago doon? Yung additional na deductions for the training expenses, no? But of course, it has limit. No? Okay. So with that, I would like to say thank you, and please subscribe to our channel. No? So good day, everyone.